Welcome to Game of Roses. I'm Chad Coltrane, and we've got some more scandal brewing in the Love is Blind Season 8 cast with Alex. Now, there were initial allegations from several people online that he was essentially asking underage girls to come to parties, offering them alcohol in exchange for sexual favors. Storytime with Rikkii broke that story, and now she is going further, covering it even deeper. There are two new videos she just dropped. I'm going to watch them both right here and kind of go through what these allegations are. If you don't know who Storytime with Rikkii is, she is, in my opinion, one of the best people covering Love is Blind. She did it all last season with Tyler Francis and his children. She's doing it now with all the allegations coming out against some of these cast members. So let's just dig in. I have not yet watched these videos, but they have trigger warnings on them. So I'm assuming this is not good. Let's take a listen.
So a lot of you guys have been tagging me in the allegations being made about Alex. And honestly, I did not want to touch this story until I talked to the women myself. So yes, I personally talked to 6 of the women who came forward and made allegations about Alex. They were able to provide some level of receipts. The events happened over a decade ago, so they were able to gather what they could. We're going to go over it all here today. There's a lot to unpack here. There's a lot to go over, but trust me, you're going to want to watch this video. So starting from the beginning, if you have no idea what's going on, Alex from Love is Blind Season 8 was posted in the Are We Dating the Same Guy Minneapolis group. He was posted back in June, so this is before the season cast was announced. This is before he was on the Season 7 reunion. It is before anybody knew who he was. When he was posted in this group, a lot of anonymous users came forward with some very serious allegations against Alex. Pause.
Yeah, let's take a pause and read some of these. Some of these were the ones that have already come out, but let's just make sure that we get all the facts straight here as we go into this. So someone said he went to my school, likes younger ladies. I used to party at his house in high school with my friends. He was 19 to 20, and we were 15 to 17. He definitely hooked up / took advantage of some of us due to our age. I don't know him now at all. One of my best friends dated him years ago. Stay away, can confirm what others. And then these other ones are kind of blocked by Storytime Tricky.
To read, but it's probably nothing you haven't seen already up into this point.
We've seen these ones. Oh, okay, here we go. Confirm what others said about him hanging out with teenage girls. He preferred to have my friends dress like a younger girl. She was 21 when dating him and nearly broke a door down when she jokingly took his phone from him because he would never put it down. Okay. And
some of the women actually located me, and I was able to locate the rest. Get a little bit more context behind these allegations. Here.
This is why she's great, Storytime with Rikkii. She goes deep into this, talks to the actual people who are making the allegations, gets at least a higher level of credibility to the allegations. At this point, they're all just kind of anonymous on the internet. Who knows? But generally, in cases like this where there's smoke, there's fire. We all know that. But let's keep continuing and see how deep she has dug.
Here's what I found. So here we go. I knew Alex October 2015, April 2016. I was one of the girls who would party with him. I was 17. There were other high schooler guys and girls, all 15 to 17. I remember Alex, we called him Brownie. Alex gave us free booze, and I believe we...
Brownie? So I guess that his old Instagram? Because his current Instagram is not that.
Whenever we went over, I'm not even kidding, the walls would be lined with alcohol.
Oh, God.
I knew he would be alone with minors, girls at these parties in the basement. I've been doing some digging, and I found the house that he was renting. So I did ask 2 of the women if they were able to locate where these parties took place. It's worth mentioning that 2 of the women were able to look at pictures that they took from this home. And an iPhone geotags the location or tells where a photo was taken. And 2 separate women were able to identify the same house. This is one woman, as you can see. It's on 10th.
I mean, this is like police level investigation into this. And that might be required because some of the allegations here seem like they are bordering on criminal allegations.
By St. Bonaventure Church, which you can see in the corner there. This is an entirely different victim, St. Bonaventure Church and 10th Street. It's worth mentioning that one of the geotag photos that I just showed you was timestamped December 12th, 2015, making Alex at the time 20 years old. One of the victims was able to provide a photo from these parties. Everybody's face has been blocked out, obviously, because they are minors, but you can see that they're...
If he was 20... if he was giving alcohol to minors, that's already a crime. These other allegations, obviously, are more significant crimes. I'm very curious. They've shot the reunion. I believe they shot the reunion yesterday or the day before. these allegations, I don't know if they had, kind of reached a fever pitch at this point, because I think these videos from Storytime with Rikkii, these came out yesterday. So they might have come out roughly the same time they were shooting, or I just can't imagine they would make him answer for these things, because we saw what happened with Tyler Francis last season. They didn't make him answer for the lies he told about his children, and that's not even a crime. That's just kind of like, shitty behavior, or however you want to look at it, I suppose. These are potential criminal actions here. I'm very curious to see how the franchise responds to this. My guess is they will completely ignore it, sweep it under the rug. No harm, no foul. We didn't know. This just happens. When you cast enough people in a TV show, you're going to get one guy who does this kind of stuff. It's unreal, the casting problems that all of these... Bachelor has these problems too, with Devin Strader. I mean, not this specific problem, but his allegations were of a restraining order nature. It wasn't of a having sex with minors nature. Nonetheless, it's like problematic male behavior seems to be rampant currently in all reality TV dating shows, except Love Island USA Season 6, right? I don't think so.
Tons of alcohol. I do have the address of this home, which is publicly listed as one of Alex's previous addresses. I did block out the address, but as you...
This is unbelievable. She's doing like an FBI level investigation into this.
You can see this location is the same location that is on 10th Avenue that the victims' photos were pinging from. And from the pictures provided, you can see that this is the same home, same living room. Previous addresses are public record, so it is public record that this address is listed as a previous address for Alex. Before you say, how do we know that it's the same Alex Brown? The address listed right beneath it is also a previous address of Alex that I have a lease agreement for. Just so we know that we're talking about the same Alex here. And
this is unreal. She has the lease agreements that this guy signed on 2 previous living places. I mean... It's absolutely unreal. And it's like, if Storytime with Rikkii can do this, now granted, she is a saint. If you're not following her, please follow her everywhere. She has a great podcast called Reality Receipts. But if she can do this, why can't the producers of these shows? That really is the ultimate question, I think, that we, as fans, at least for me, it's the question I always kind of come to with this. It's like, when these allegations start to come out, when the season airs, this season's only been out for 2.5 weeks. Already, she has all of this information. In 2.5 weeks, she did a job that the producers clearly did not do, or maybe they did do it, and they put him in the show anyway. Those are the only 2 possibilities. Either the producers aren't going this deep, they're not doing the job of somebody like Storytime with Rikkii is doing, or they did know these things. They did do that job and still said, throw him in the mix. Maybe it'll be dramatic. I don't know what the real answer is.
And that address does actually link back to the Alex Brown in question. Here is a contract for another previous address of Alex.
This is unbelievable.
Some of the victims were able to provide multiple pictures from this home and these parties where you can clearly see a lot of alcohol and teenagers. This is just for context. Again, for context. Again, for context. Now it is unclear what transpired at these parties or in the basement of these parties, but what is clear is that parties were taking place at a location that Alex is linked to, and alcohol was provided to minors. It is also worth mentioning that no criminal charges have been filed against Alex, and there are no police reports or incident reports on file for Alex.
So even that, she's gone to that length. Now, there's no police reports, no criminal reports filed against him, no criminal accusations. So in some way, you could say maybe the producers looked into that. They do like a background check to see if you have any kind of criminal allegations or convictions potentially, and they found nothing. And so therefore they're like, throw him in. He's clean. Not knowing, all of this, kind of the details that are just under the surface, just under the level of a criminal allegation or conviction. It's possible, I suppose, but I think, just for, my own 2 cents on all this, producers of these shows have a higher level of responsibility than just making sure there's not an active criminal charge, criminal allegation, criminal investigation. You have to go beyond that to see what kind of people these people are. And I know Love is Blind is different than Bachelor. Like, Bachelor kind of promotes the idea that whoever our leads are, they're catches. They're like perfect people. You would be lucky to find a person like this in your real life because they're so fantastic and deserving of all love and, blah, blah, blah. Love is Blind is not quite like that. They don't promote that same idea. Their experiment is in the real world, looks factor into a lot of why we date or don't date or fall in love or don't fall in love. And if you eliminate that and allow people to get to know each other just kind of personality to personality, hearing only their voice before you have to propose and accept or reject that proposal, that maybe that is a better way to form a lasting relationship. So it's not quite the same as Bachelor, who promotes again their leads as like these superhuman kind of on a pedestal type people. Nonetheless, when you're creating an environment where you're asking people, you're asking the players in these games to essentially get married, fall in love, get married within a span of months, I believe there is some implied responsibility on the producers to make sure that the people in that experiment, the people you're telling people, hey, you should go fall in love with this person in 2 weeks and get married on camera so that we can keep making millions and millions of dollars on Netflix or ABC or whatever the corporate greed machine that sponsors your specific show is. If that's what you're laying out, you do have some kind of implied responsibility, I think, to make sure that all these people are safe for one another in one way or another.
I did check. Now, here's where things take a turn. You guys know on the show how Alex mentioned that he had a girlfriend for 2 years and she cheated on him the whole time and gave this whole sob story to garner sympathy. Well, I spoke to this ex-girlfriend and she gave me a little bit more details on their relationship. She did provide photos of the two of them together, which I am not going to show here. She did provide proof that her and Alex were actually in a relationship. And this is what she shared with me. She said that he was obsessed with making her look younger. He asked her to wear her hair a certain way, asked her to get braids.
This is unreal. I just can't believe the level of detail Storytime with Ricky has gotten into. I mean, they should hire her. Like, Love is Blind should hire her to do this kind of a deep dive on every dude that they throw into the show. You have to start doing that at this point. I mean, this season of Love is Blind is not only completely boring for reasons, I have my own suspicions about why that is. I think they cut some of the couples out that actually did make it to Honduras or to the final altar even. And in so doing, they then had to recut all of the things where the couples are meeting up together to eliminate that couple, thereby making it almost unusable. I mean, we saw what happened in the, what would that have been? The first episode of this second drop, episode 7, where all of the couples meet up in Honduras in the honeymoon phase. That scene is about 5 minutes long and nothing happens in it. And it's mostly presented in 2 shots of 2 people sitting on a couch. There are very few big group shots. I think that's because they had to cut an entire couple out of that night. Could be wrong, but that's how it looks to me. At any rate, here we go.
Braces, and he requested that she dress younger. She said that one day they were out on a date. She was wearing a dress and wedges, and they saw a young girl. She said, to her knowledge, she looked about 13 to 14 years old, who was wearing skinny jeans, Converse, and a crop top. And he said, you should dress more like that. She also said that when together, he liked watching young porn. Told her that you can just type young after any search watching.
Oh, porn. She's blocking out the word porn.
Will give you searches of people who look really young. She said that when they were together, that Alex warned her that there might be young girls coming forward accusing him of certain things.
That's never good. That's never good when the person you're dating is like, look, just to let you know, there may be some crazy people who are going to accuse me of some really crazy shit. But don't worry about it. That's always a bad sign.
And to ignore them because they are all young girls who were obsessed with him.
Mm-hmm.
She did go on to say that she was a TA in college and she would often read some of Alex's essays and just give her feedback on them. And she said that for his environmental ethics class at Normandale College, he had an essay on utilitarianism and how stealing someone's food and replacing it before they notice is the same as S-ing someone in their sleep and them having no idea that they were S-ed. For context, utilitarianism is a theory that states that the best...
I mean, this guy sounds like an absolute monster from all this. And it's like, again, the Love is Blind producers are like, yep, throw him in. Not only throw him in, like they shot this almost a year ago. They have a year to do this research, figure out who these people are, and then they can decide to include them in the edit or not, to include them in the final product or not. And again, Alex didn't even make it to the fantasy suites. He was part of a love triangle that completely dissolved. It fell apart, absolutely 100%. Why even put him in the show? It was a waste of time to the viewers, just in a narrative kind of standpoint. I don't want to watch a show that has the first 6 episodes are about a guy I'm not going to see again. In the most important episodes, the last part where people are getting married and stuff, they threw him in because they thought it was dramatic. They had a year to research this guy and clearly didn't do it or didn't care. I mean, it's unbelievable that we're at this level of reality TV production. We have more reality TV shows being made than ever, and many of them are great. Traders, for example, is fucking fantastic. I think it's the best reality show on TV currently. But these dating shows, they're games, obviously, and most people go into these shows hoping to get famous and maybe I'll fall in love. That's kind of the hierarchy of thought patterns for most players. I'm not saying all, but obviously all these players are open to being famous. They all have Instagram accounts. Nobody's taking down their Instagram or going private or whatever. But in these dating games, it's like the producers, I think, have a higher obligation than in any other type of reality show to make sure that those players are safe, that the people they're dealing with, who, by the way, the producers have cast specifically to put in the show, that those people aren't like this. And I don't know why they're not doing it. If it's laziness or it's purposeful maliciousness to put kind of bad seeds in the player pool just to see what happens. I don't know what the true answer is, but one of those seems like it has to be true.
Action is one that produces the most good for the most people. I guess the point of the paper was to take a small example and apply it to an extreme and see if the result still applies when applied to an extreme. Now, while I don't have access to the paper itself, I do have a text thread.
Okay, this is insane. She's like, I don't have the paper, but I do have a text thread of students commenting on the paper. I mean, this is wild. How does she get this shit? It's unbelievable.
Conversation where she raises her concerns about this paper. Okay, so let's get into these text messages. Before anybody says, how do we know that this is Alex? I asked for the phone number, and this number is publicly linked to the Alex Brown. As you can see here, he says, do you want to read my essay? I used the grape during sleep argument might get an F. She says, oh my God, let me read it. Also be careful because your teacher might report it. He says the guideline for the essay is to come up with an actual situation in my life that I'm not sure was either morally right or wrong and to analyze it from the lens of a utilitarian. It's just a first draft. She says, very interesting. If utilitarianism benefits everyone, how was the grape beneficial to the girl? He sends a face and says, did you read it? She says, yes, I'm talking about the last sentence in your conclusion. He says it's irrelevant because there was no effect for the girl. Just like me throwing my trash in the garbage, no effect for everyone else. She goes on to say, sure, but according to your conclusion, it benefits everyone. He goes on to say it doesn't have to benefit everyone. I never said that. She says, got ya. If there is an effect on a person from your action, it should be positive. If there is no effect, then it doesn't matter because it's irrelevant. Again, she's just raising concerns on this paper in general. Taking advantage of someone in that context then has a lot of meaning and it just leaves me a little confused. He says, how? She says, taking advantage of a coward, I believe that's supposed to say coworker, by taking their food versus taking advantage of a girl by putting your inside of her while she's unconscious. Both are two different extremes. So again, they're going back and forth about the topic of this paper. You can pause.
And then he's like defending the idea. This is insane. And like, I don't expect a producer to do this level of investigation. Again, Storytime with Rikkii is just like, it's on a different level here, ladies and gentlemen. But the fact that like this is the guy, I mean, she's obviously Storytime with Rikkii here, getting the details that are painting a very accurate picture of who this guy is, or at least who he was in college when he was writing these papers. It's like, you just don't put that guy in the show. I mean, I'm sorry. And I know it's hard sometimes for these shows to cast guys because primarily these shows are watched by women. So they get an influx of applicants to be in the show that are all women. Then they have to go out usually and actually scout for guys on dating apps, on Instagram, whatever, social media. And so when they find a guy who looks the part, they say, hey, would you be interested? Let us talk to you. And then my assumption is, again, I don't know which of these is true, if it's malicious or if it's ineptitude. But my guess is it's ineptitude, that they just do 2 or 3 Zooms with the guy and they're like, great, this sounds awesome. And then they hire somebody to do a rudimentary background check, which probably is the searching for criminal convictions, allegations, indictments, things of that nature. And if none of that comes up, good to go. We did our due diligence, but it's just not deep enough. Like that's really what we're getting out of this now, I think. in this kind of modern era of these dating formats, it's not enough to just say they didn't have a criminal allegation. You need to get deeper than that. You need to be checking these "are we dating the same guy" Facebook groups and stuff, because at the very least, that's just one more step added to the background check that doesn't seem that difficult. And if they would have done that in this case, there were multiple women, I guess, talking about Alex in one of these groups.
To read if you want.
And it's like, I'm not suggesting they do, again, this level of scrutiny, but even if a guy is in one of those groups, that's it. That should disqualify you from being cast in one of these shows.
Want to read the rest. So this is all Alex. He's telling her that because she doesn't agree with the paper that he's worried that she might have autism. Since there is no negative outcome for the victim, therefore, so I take the same theory and apply it to a very serious issue.
I'm worried that you might literally have autism. This is insane.
SA. So again, a very concerning conversation. I'm not saying this proves anything. I'm not making any implications here. I'm just showing you an alarming conversation that raised some eyebrows in her mind as well. Mixed with all of the other allegations, it definitely is concerning. Got a 79
Agreed.
out of 80 on the paper. In this text thread, the victim confided in him that she had been SA'd at 9 years old. He says, "Do you think it negatively impacted your life?" She says, "Not as much as it could have. I repressed the memory so much that sometimes I forget it ever happened actually. It's so disgusting and horrible." He says that guy is crazy to do that shit at a public pool. What a weird thing. Not do it at all in a public pool.
Yeah, exactly. He's basically commenting on the guy's strategy being off. The act was fine. Just don't do it at the place you did it.
The most concerning part is he says, "Were you asking for it?" I'm kidding. I'm so sorry. I didn't expect this video to get this long. There is more. Go to part 2.
Oh my God.
So a lot of you guys have been tagging me in the allegations.
Let's go to part 2. Here we go.
Okay, guys, so here is part 2 of the allegations that are going around about Alex right now. If you missed part 1, I encourage you to go back and watch it, as we did unpack a lot of things there. We covered the alleged house parties that have been circulating online, accompanied by receipts, and we uncovered some text messages that an alleged ex of Alex found concerning, and she shared and addressed that concern. She also shared with me that Alex seemingly asked her to role play as if they were in middle school. As you can see from the text, he says, "Pretend we are in middle school and I just got your number from your friend and I have a huge crush on you and we are finally texting." She says, "Oh my God, okay, cute." And he starts with the role play. Now, she did say that her going along with this is a reflection of her trauma bond to Alex, and she often felt like if she didn't go along with these things that he would get upset with her. God. She says that she did tell Alex that she cheated on him so that he would leave her. She said she does think that she suffered from some form of Stockholm syndrome and had on rose-colored glasses during her relationship with Alex, and she is still processing and working through what went down during her relationship with Alex in therapy. Another young woman reached out to me that met Alex on Hinge in 2018. She did provide a snapshot of their initial hearing on Hinge to confirm that she met him. She does tell me that Alex confided in her about something disturbing, something that he described as a mental illness that he cannot control. And now, while there's nothing to show that he confided in her about anything specific, what I do have is a text thread between the two of them where she expresses to him how what he confided in her about was triggering for her. And it was triggering for her because she was SA'd at a young age. And she shares that she's experienced a lot of guilt over the years for not expressing this or telling somebody about what he told her sooner. I am going to share those texts with you now. Trigger warning to anyone who may be sensitive to this information. Again, this phone number has been confirmed and linked to a known phone number of Alex. This is the phone number, and this is the phone number linking it to Alex. So for context again, Alex confided in her about something disturbing, something that he described as a mental illness. She often was triggered by this because she was SA'd at a young age. She didn't know that what Alex confided in her would be so triggering for her. So she oftentimes hit him up and let him know how it was triggering for her. That is what we're reading here. Okay, so we can see here, you cannot even conceive of why what you told me could be triggering is beyond me. It's not BS because it's literally what actual trauma looks like, especially when it's been deeply repressed. I'm sorry, you're right. You couldn't have known. I just didn't know either. And you were a constant reminder. And when I tried to step away from that, you guilted me. You never even gave me time to process it before. You just assumed it was okay. But God, that you could possibly believe that this could in no way possibly trigger someone who was raped at that exact same effing age isn't effing rocket science, Alex. I'm sorry, but you don't get to invalidate this. Again, it's very vague. It's not specific to what they're referring to, but from the context of this text, you can tell that she is saying something you told me triggered me. He goes on to say, I'm sorry, but I have almost lost all respect for you. In no way did I do anything bad. I have always done things to be helpful and make people happy. She says, I'm not blaming you. I'm sorry. I'm leaving. That's fine. He says, I told you a struggle that I'm dealing with deep down. So he does admit that he told her a struggle that he's dealing with deep down. Again, very vague. She goes on to say, but that was an effing trigger. He says, don't make that about yourself. And she says, and you don't get to determine that. He says, I do not care. That's not the point. She goes on to say, you can't even get the opinion from someone else on who's right here because no one else knows. Why do you think that is? He goes on to say, it absolutely should not be a trigger. If I told you that I graped someone, then maybe it could be a trigger. Or if I graped someone in front of you. I have and never will grape anyone. I told you about an idea that has nothing to do with you. You should be supporting me instead of blaming and shaming me. Shame on you for doing what you are doing. She says, I just got told by another person that it is a trigger. Google it, Alex. Jesus Christ, I'm done. Goodbye. You're right. This isn't worth it. Goodbye, Alex. And then you can see what he says here. Here is another text exchange. I don't know how it fits into the thread, but you can go ahead and read it clearly. This woman was very triggered about something that Alex confided in her in, a secret. I described it as something disturbing, something that Alex himself described as a mental illness. She was specific with me about what he confided in her, but I am not going to say it here since there is no proof of it. So I will let you, come to your own conclusions about what he confided in her in about. So that is some more text for context. He also said that Alex confided in her that he believes that he is a sociopath. And again, these women.
What? I think if somebody tells you they think they're a sociopath, they either are or they think it's a good thing. That's terrifying. And these are the exact kind of things. I mean, can you imagine if in a casting interview, Alex is on Zoom with one of the casting producers, like, tell us something about yourself that nobody else knows. Well, I think I'm a sociopath. Do you think they'd put that person on the show? I think they would. I actually think they would, to see what would happen, because there's still this old school mentality that comes from late 90s, early 2000s reality TV era, where good reality TV is when people are having nervous breakdowns and fighting. And that seems to be still baked into the fabric of these shows, at least in the producers' minds, when in fact the opposite is actually true. Yes, you want people to have difficult emotional decisions to make that are based in I'm in love with multiple people, but that's set up inherently by the premise of the processes of these shows. Bachelor is multiple people dating one person, so invariably that one person is going to potentially fall in love with multiple people and have to make a hard decision about which one they want to take to the finals. Same thing in Love is Blind. You set up this situation that always produces multiple love triangles. These people have to make difficult decisions about, oh, do I want to really go with this person or this person? They're funnier, but they get me more, or whatever the case may be. You don't want this type of shit in there. And I think producers think you do need this type of shit in there. I think that's why we have it in, it's almost literally every season now. There's at least one dude that pops out like this, potentially multiple. Jen Tran's season of Bachelorette, season 21, both of her two finalists, Devin Strader and Marcus Schoberg, had allegations against them that were, not exactly like this, but bad guy type shit, restraining orders, It's like, what are we doing here? And I think Devin Strader was cast by producers purposely to be the villain. I think they knew he was kind of a bad guy, maybe not the extent of like restraining orders and stuff, but I think they knew he was a bad guy and they put him in that season specifically to be the villain. Then oopsie, he wins the ring. Now what do? Now, if you're Claire Freeland, the executive producer of Bachelor, you force Jen Tran to sit on that hot seat and push her into a nervous breakdown by having Jesse Palmer say, do you want to watch back the footage of your proposal? And then she, through tears, says, do I have a choice? And that's where we're at in these reality shows. The producers are putting together these situations to destroy their leads. And I just don't think we as an audience want to be watching this. It makes it very difficult. Not to mention with Love is Blind Season 8, it's just a boring season. On top of that, now you have this thing that like the people they did choose to focus on, one of them has a tidal wave of credible allegations of potentially criminal acts. It's unreal.
Women tried their best to provide any receipts and evidence that they had that this man said these things to them. So here's a text thread. If I had done something wrong to you, I would have apologized, as I have no problem apologizing when I am objectively wrong. You want somebody who accepts your strong emotions and who can comfort and accept you regardless, but I am not that person. So it goes on to say, I do not care in the slightest bit if your friends think that I am a sociopath because I understand the underlying fallacies that you have enforced that explain those opinions. My life is lived for the achievement of personal happiness, and so whatever I am, I am. And also, there is nothing inherently wrong with being a sociopath, and it can actually very easily be seen as a major advantage in today's society, as most successful / famous people are sociopaths. Again, these texts are confirmed.
Okay, so he's of the variety that thinks being a sociopath is a good thing. That can just be an asshole. I don't know if he's really a sociopath or not, but it's like people who idolize sociopaths are also very problematic, especially in the context of a group dating reality TV show where, by the way, they take away your ability to see the person when you're falling in love with them. Being able to see micro expressions on a person's face and body language and all this it's one of the primary ways that we can accept what someone is saying is true or figure out if it's a lie, build trust, etc., etc. So to remove that element of communication, and then let's say that he is a sociopath, the producers throw a sociopath in that mix, that person is going to excel at being able to manipulate people because you don't get to see the other stuff that you usually get to see when you first meet and talk to a person. It's literally just their words and the tone of their voice. And if he can augment that to sound truthful, then it's off to the races. This is absolutely wild.
To be coming from Alex. Phone number, proof that it's Alex. Again, I'm not here to make any implication, so do what you want with the information. I always say that when there is smoke, there is...
Yeah, she's not here to make any implications. She doesn't have to. She's literally got an FBI level dossier on this dude down to lease agreements, the grades he made on college papers, text messages where he's telling people he wants to be a sociopath. This is absolutely unreal. And again, I just have to say, hats off to Storytime with Rikkii. Please follow her everywhere if you're not doing that yet. I think she is right now kind of experiencing her rise into prominence of being one of the most important voices in reality TV coverage. And I just can't believe she has all this information. She's gone this deep. And producers didn't even go 1/100th this deep on vetting this guy again. Or if they did, they put him in there on purpose.
Is fire, and that there is no way that multiple women came forward with very similar stories about a guy that wasn't even announced on the cast yet, and that there was no truth to it. So hopefully these receipts that I have provided and the text exchanges that you read today, you're able to form your own opinion on what you believe was going on. Again, I would like to state that no formal complaints or incident reports were found on Alex. I was not able to obtain any, was not able to find any criminal filings against him. Now, while I wasn't able to find any formal complaints or filings, I do believe that there might be something out there because, as you can see here, Alex is talking about just talking to one of the best defense attorneys in Minnesota.
What?
And he's seemingly talking about, he said, it could be up to 3 weeks before they charge me, and the police could just show up at my door at any minute. So I feel like there might be something out there. I just wasn't able to find it. This would also mean that he would be able to clear a background check. There's also this text thread where he was freaking out about his Facebook account being disabled. And you can see here that he says, now I'm going to be sitting in bed shaking all night because I'm worried that blank, which was another ex-girlfriend that I reached out to, but she did not respond. So I'm guessing she didn't want to talk, called the police, and they are going to be looking through my Facebook and are going to come to my house again. So something has happened. It's not clear what, but I wasn't able to find anything. And again, I don't know what this is in reference to exactly, but some type of legal trouble with the law. If someone finds something, send it my way. I'm just sharing with you guys what I discovered. Something that's much less important is that Alex did say on Love is Blind that he was wildly unpopular, wore a purple sweater to school every day, was bullied, had an afro. In high school, girls laughed at him. He ate his lunch in the bathroom, and pictures of him circulated from high school, and none of those things appear to be true. He was actually wildly popular. He actually had a music video, which we posted on the Reality Receipts podcast page, where he seems to be very, very popular. I just want to thank all of the women who I spoke with for coming forward and being brave enough to tell their story. I know it hasn't been easy. I know a lot of you have expressed how this has impacted your entire life. Thank you so much for trusting me to tell your story. And sometimes we have to just believe women, because there's not always going to be a receipt to show that something happened. Sometimes the word of a woman is enough. I'm with you. I trust you. I believe you. And thank you again. Oh, and there's also a text of him using the N-word. Bye.
Oh,
Okay,
God.
guys, so here is part
Oh,
two.
my God. Storytime with Ricky, again, just doing the greatest work in the Love is Blind kind of coverage, news, informational area that anyone is doing right now. Absolutely shocking news about this dude. These allegations already started to come out, last week a little bit, but now here's a lot more specific allegations. Multiple women are now adding their text message interactions with him, the pictures they took at some of these parties where he allegedly was giving underage girls drinks and demanding sexual favors in return. It's just staggering that this is happening season after season. How can these shows stop this from happening? And I really think it's just a matter of having somebody like Storytime with Ricky, whose job it is not to clear background checks, because I think that's what the people that they have working on these shows now believe their job is. It's like background check these people and clear as many as you can. And so they do the most rudimentary version of that possible, which is type their name into some database, and if they don't have a criminal accusation or criminal conviction even, fine, they skate. Good enough. But you got to go deeper. You got to go this deep to really find out, could something like this come up? Is there anything in this person's past that would lead you to believe they should not be put in a scenario where we are asking people to fall in love with them in 2 weeks? That really is the ultimate question. And this may have something to do with why we're not getting a Bachelorette this season. Maybe it's just too difficult to cast 20 to 30 guys and not have at least one of them wind up like Alex here. But again, shocking information. Thank you to Storytime with Ricky. Please, again, everybody go follow her on everything she does. She's absolutely fantastic. I will be covering more of this as it comes out. Thanks for joining me.